What is up, Steeler fans? It's time for the second half of the Friday Let's Ride podcast, which means it is time for the All Betz Are Off segment with Jeremy Betz. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
It's going good, Jeff. We're kicking along here, remodeling the house. Obviously, there's a lot going on, so I'm in my room today and just bouncing around, but doing good, ready to talk some Steelers.
Yeah, let's talk some Steelers, even though we're in the lull. I just spent the first half of the show reminding Steeler fans that the game is not won on paper, because I've seen there's a lot of fans, not a ton, but there's enough for me to bring it up on a podcast, that we're just really down in the dumps that the Steelers didn't bring in Jaire Alexander for the amount that he signed with Baltimore. I do have to remind everyone that he is a free agent, that he can sign wherever he wants. He does have a connection to Lamar Jackson. He's good friends with him. He could have gotten a better offer from the Steelers. We don't know that. And said, I want to play in Baltimore. I think I have a better chance to win in Baltimore. I'm signing a one-year deal to prove it deal. What was your takeaway from Jaire Alexander going to the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my takeaway, is that he wanted to play with Lamar Jackson, his former college teammate. He wanted to play on the Ravens. And I mean, it was reported that he turned down more money to play elsewhere. We don't know if the Steelers made an offer, but we do know that there was interest there. And so, you know, if you're one of the fans that's sitting back thinking, the Steelers didn't even try and they should have been able to get him at that number. The only reason he's playing at that number is because he gets to go where he wants to go. And my point was, and I've said it on, or mentioned it on socials, on Twitter specifically, recently, like you would have been mad at the Steelers if they paid the price that it would have taken to draw him away from Baltimore, most likely. And this is for a 28-year-old cornerback who's missed three of the last four seasons, the majority of three of the last four seasons, due to major, not little, but major injuries. So I think it's definitely not one of those things that we should be getting upset about as Steeler fans. He wanted to play in Baltimore. That's the bottom line, and that's where he's at.
Yeah, he wanted to play in Baltimore, and the thing is, too, it's actually a great deal for the Ravens. Like, they're not overpaying for him. Yeah. He has incentives, playtime incentives, to make sure that hey, Baltimore had a guy that said, I want to play for you. Let's make a deal happen. I don't really care about the money. I want to prove it. Okay, that's fair enough. And yes, it does strengthen the Baltimore secondary, but I still don't think they're that fantastic of a secondary. I think their safety duo with Malachi Starks is really good. And he and Kyle Hamilton. But their corners, Marlon Humphrey, I'm not sure how I feel about him at this stage of his career. I feel like he gets got more than he has big-time plays. And I know he had that interception of Russell Wilson, but spare me. That was a horrible throw. That was not even close. But still,
he's as boom or bust as it comes at corner. I mean, he's always trying to make the big play. So
he is, and I feel like that's happened with him more in recent years than, early in his career. I felt he was much better, and I really was like, man, if he could be a Steeler, that would be awesome. But I do want to ask you a question about. Okay, so here we are in the lull, looking at, and you're doing this on the Steelers Fix currently, where you're taking like a team by team look at, okay, comparing the Steelers to like the Ravens, comparing the Steelers to the Bengals, Browns, etc. in the division. And it just so happens that Coach Kevin Smith did a great article for SteelCurtainNetwork.com yesterday, Thursday, asking if Pittsburgh fixed their Baltimore problem. So how do the Steelers, in your opinion, stack up with the rest of the division?
Well, I think when you look at like Baltimore and Cincinnati, who, if you go outside of Pittsburgh, those are the teams that are being listed as the elite ones in the AFC North, and the Steelers are kind of left out of that conversation. I think it's a lot closer roster build wise, like the players, the depth, the talent on the roster. I think it's a lot closer than most teams are willing to get, or most people are willing to give the Steelers credit for when it comes to comparisons to Baltimore and Cincinnati. When Corey and I did the Ravens and Steelers roster rivalry, the comparison on the Steelers Fix, we both came away like pretty satisfied that the Steelers have the better roster on the defensive side of the ball. And when it comes to like the offensive line and like even tight end, we both felt that the Steelers could compete with the Ravens at those positions. And Corey even went as far as to say he liked the Steelers' wide receiver room better than the Ravens. I didn't quite agree with that. Where I think the separation is really at is with the quarterbacks. And the Steelers roster is pretty good. I would probably categorize them as a top 10 or 12 roster in the NFL. They just do not have a difference maker at quarterback, or they haven't had a difference maker at quarterback, and they're maybe banking on Aaron Rodgers being somewhat of a difference maker compared to what we've seen out of the quarterback position in the most recent years of the Steelers. So when I look at where the Steelers stack up, like if you take out the quarterback completely, I like their chances against teams like the Ravens and the Bengals. In fact, I probably like the rosters in total a little bit better, especially on the defensive side of the ball against both of those squads. But you cannot take away the quarterback, and you cannot talk about these teams without adding extra value to that position for the teams that have all-stars there. So the Ravens and the Bengals, they've got all-star quarterbacks. That hides a multitude of sins for your roster, Jeff. It really does. So while I think the Steelers are not as far behind those teams and may not even be behind those teams roster-wise, they're so far behind at quarterback that the edge definitely goes to the Ravens and probably to Cincinnati in the end as well, although I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense could be the great equalizer in that matchup. They've shown in the past that they can rattle Burrow when they get after him.
And the Bengals, they're so lopsided to me. I mean, they're just all offense. And that's their MO. They're going to outscore you. That's fine. There is a way to win that like that in the NFL. Baltimore is much more well-rounded, and I think Pittsburgh's more well-rounded than Cincinnati is as well. We all know the big if, and that's if the Steelers could maybe land another big-name receiver. I think they would be the second-best roster in the AFC North, and if they were to land another wide receiver, I think it would be pretty close for them being around the Ravens for first in terms of best roster on paper. But as I said in the first half, the game's not played on paper. But still, we'll find out soon enough.
Well, can I just ask you a brief question, too?
Sure.
Because I've been thinking about this a lot recently, or in recent weeks, after things have settled down with Rodgers and you start to see the roster in its totality heading into the dull moments of the offseason here. Is there anything that the Steelers can do this offseason to put themselves even closer to that we're an actual contender in the AFC? I think there might be, Jeff. I think if you add the right wide receiver and maybe like a slot corner of some kind, say the Steelers added a wide receiver too, and they added Jalen Ramsey, which there's some signs that maybe they might do that. Is that enough? I don't know if maybe that's enough, but they could make some moves that could get them a little closer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to always come back. Defensively, I think Brandon Echols is going to be better than most people are expecting. I really am. I think Brandon Echols is going to be a Deshaun Elliott type signing for the Steelers, or at least I hope. On offense, we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to bring from a health perspective. My biggest question, no matter who they bring in for receiver, is the offensive line. It's always going to be the offensive line. If the Steelers have an offensive line that can keep Aaron Rodgers upright, open up holes in the running game, then if you bring in a wide receiver, that's when they become lethal. But if Broderick Jones sucks on the left side and is not even up to Dan Moore status, and Troy Falatanu is great, but Mason McCormick next to him is average at best, that's an issue. And if Isaac Seumalo picks up where he left off last season with a subpar season, Zach Frazier can't do it all from the center position, and therefore it's going to be more bust than boom on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to have Rodgers dropping back and heaving it quickly so that he doesn't get crushed by the incoming pass rush. So I think that for me, yes, it makes sense to say if they were to get a receiver and if they get another corner like a Jalen Ramsey, I know your boy Ricky is saying that's going to happen. But still, it's one of those things where I still have major questions on the offensive line. And so that's my only hold up there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely follow that. I think like the way that they have approached this offseason, they have to believe in those guys up front, right? Because that's who they're riding with.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that, hey, we invested in these guys. It's time to see what they can do come hell or high water. And maybe it's for better or maybe it's for worse. So we'll see. But I think there has to be some semblance of belief in them. And I don't know. Tomlin and his staffs get a lot of flack, but they keep winning, man, and they keep doing things that we don't expect them to do. And now they've got something at quarterback at least. And if that offensive line works out, I think you may be a piece or two away on that offensive side of the ball at the skill positions from being a real threat in the AFC.
All right, I want to finish this segment up with, I saw you tweet this out. This was on Thursday, and this was Fox NFL put out an image. Now, keep in mind, listen closely, Steeler fans. The question that they posed is not which quarterback wide receiver duo will have the most touchdowns. It was which new quarterback wide receiver duo will have the most touchdowns. So you're not going to see Burrow to Chase. That's not new. They've been together for a long time. So let's talk about this. You gave your answer. I'll give you an opportunity to answer it again here. But here are the options that they provide. 8 total quarterback wide receiver duos that are playing together for the first time this year. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf is one of them. Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams out with the Rams. Dak Prescott and George Pickens down in Dallas. Drake May and Stephon Diggs, if Diggs is actually on the team, if he doesn't get cut. Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp is another one. James Daniels and Deebo Samuel. Lamar Jackson, and we always forget that DeAndre Hopkins joined the Ravens this offseason. And lastly, I don't know why they don't say Jackson Dart, but they say Russell Wilson and Malik Neighbors with the New York Giants. So I have a top 3 here in terms of the new quarterback duos that I think will have the most touchdowns. Who would be on your list if you had to do top 3?
Okay. So I'll start with number 3 here, and I'm going to go Wilson and Neighbors.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So,
okay.
Here's why. Neighbors is the clear-cut wide receiver 1, and by the end of the season, I'll throw it out there, I think he's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL by the end of this season, talent-wise. And he makes quarterbacks look good. Russell Wilson, say he plays the whole year, and that may be like far-fetched, but if he plays the whole year, this is his number 1 target. He's going to get a lot of looks, and he's their number 1 target in the red zone. So that's why I put him at number 3.
Well, let me do my
2,
third. Let me do my third. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott and George Pickens. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. I think George Pickens is going to light it up in Dallas. I think this year he's going to have a lot of touchdowns. He's going to have a lot of crazy catches. And Pittsburgh fans are going to want to combust. That's how pissed they're going to be. Now, when he gets a new contract after next season, whoever that's with, they probably will be like, well, I'm glad they didn't pay that. But I think George Pickens is going to do some damage in Dallas. And so I think Dak Prescott, if he can stay healthy, and that's a big if, Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, I think Pickens is going to be, he's going to reap the rewards from that duo. So that's my third. Okay.
So I don't have them on my list, but I mean, they would be close. The only reason is that CeeDee Lamb is just so good.
Yeah.
And you know, this is no hate towards Pickens at all. I mean, I think he's a great player. But I see him being like the second option on the team and maybe even third in the red zone when you talk about Ferguson, their tight end as well.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But yeah, I
Who's
think
2 for you?
Stafford to Adams is
Same.
2 for me.
Same.
Yeah. Stafford to Adams is 2 for me. Puka Nacua is the one there at this point, and Adams is going to probably play the 1B or the 2 even at his age. But there's going to be enough there to where he's going to get a lot of work and probably score several touchdowns. He might even hit double digits, but I think Nacua is probably going to get there too. That's my number 2.
Okay. Same. I think that the only thing that's keeping Adams from potentially with Stafford being number 1 on the list is that Nacua is going to take a lot away. And that's also why I had Pickens and Prescott as 3 and not 2. Okay. So who's number 1? I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. It's Rodgers and Metcalf.
I agree.
It's QB1 to wide receiver 1 with no competition for snaps there outside of Pat Freiermuth. Now, this may change a little bit if they add a 2 that is a competent 2 that's like going to take away red zone targets. But either way, I still might go with the savvy vet throwing to the clear-cut, big-bodied number 1 receiver on the team. And I don't think that's far-fetched, or I don't think you have to put on your black and gold glasses to see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking to DK Metcalf's way early and often, especially in the red zone. And if they do get a wide receiver too, I think that's not going to phase him from still going that way early.
Might only
and
help,
often.
actually. All the coverage doesn't go exactly over there every time. So,
okay. Yeah. All right, man. That's great. I just wanted to bring that up. I saw your tweet. And I was like, that's a good talking point. We should bring that up. So why don't you let everyone know what's coming up for you on the written side as well as on the podcast side?
Yeah, continuing my series on best and worst case scenarios by position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you can get that steelcurtainnetwork.com. The podcast side of things, I had a great guest on the Draft Dynasty podcast. A lot of fun there. Go check that one out. We talked some follow your heart fantasy prospects, and this is a big name in the industry. He works for the Fantasy Footballers on their Fantasy Footballers Dynasty podcast. So check that out. Won't spoil who it is exactly, but go check it out and find that out. And then on the Steelers Fix, we've been talking about this roster rivalry series. I'd encourage you guys to go back and listen to that. It's a lot of fun to break these down, and we do it in real time. We're not predetermining any of this, so it's fun to hash it out as we go. And then if you like live interaction, hop in on the Steelers Q&A with me this weekend, and we'll talk some ball.
Yeah, for sure. Jeremy, as always, thanks for your time, and we'll be talking next week. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Jeff.